Hello guys and welcome back to a new video. After visiting the Lofoten Islands for years, I thought that maybe the time has come to, well, record a video and talk a little bit about my personal favorite locations of this incredible area. Which doesn't mean that they are the best ones, they're just the ones that I like the most. Now, if you want to know more about the compositions that you can take in these locations, as well as when is the best time of the day to visit them and where they are located, well, you know what to do. Just keep watching. Let's take a moment to talk about where all these places are, okay? I could have made a specific video for each location stating where they are, but honestly, it would have been me repeating the same exact things over and over again. So it would have made a lot of sense, would it? So instead, I'm making this video where I tell you that all of these locations can be found in the pretty much on the main road, so the E10 that goes between Leknes and O, so the very last town, the very last village at the end of the Lofoten Islands. It's an area that spans pretty much 50-60 kilometers, so 30 miles, give or take. It's a fairly small area if you think about it. You can definitely visit it in one day if you want to, but honestly, to shoot them properly, I would at least recommend a week, okay? And especially, you know, in winter, like right now, when you don't have a lot of daylight and the weather is pretty much looking like this a lot of the times, you definitely need some time to actually shoot them properly. So all of these locations can be found between Leknes and O. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Now, not the best day to take a video, but the three iconic locations of Sakrisoy, Hamnoy, and Reine. Let's talk a little bit about the time of the day first, because it's going to be the exact same for all these three locations. So the recommendations that I'm going to give you are valid for all three. Sunrise. Sunrise is the time of the day to be here, okay? Regardless of where do you want to shoot, whether it's Reine, Hamnoy, or Sakrisoy, for me, the light that you get at sunrise, which it's hard to picture right now, it's absolutely fantastic in all of these three locations. So I would try to dedicate a sunrise session to each one of these places. When it comes to compositions in Sakrisoy, you definitely have a lot of choices. Now you have the classic view, which you can take down here from the rocks, from the little pier, or even from the road. It all depends where do you want to put the mountains compared to the little yellow huts. And then you have the little lonely cabin, which is probably one of the most Instagram famous shots. Not my favorite if you ask me. Probably I don't even have a shot of that, or a decent one at least, because I personally don't like it that much. And last but not least, if you want to hike up a little bit, there's a little hill from where you can get a beautiful overview of the different islands with the pointy mountain in the back, the Skagsanden in the back. So you definitely have a lot of options when it comes to composing at Sakrisoy. Just spend some time here and roam around to find your favorite one. I'm not even sure why I'm telling you this, but of course from Hamnoy you have the classic Hamnoy shot, which is taken from that bridge at my back, okay? You just go on the bridge and you can't get it wrong because there's going to always be people on top of it, no matter the time of the day or the night. Now, that's the classic viewpoint. If you come to the northern end of the bridge, you can also get the Skagsanden, which is the mountain at my back, the spiky one, with the roar view in the foreground. I think that's also a pretty shot and that is worth taking. Then, if you want to go the extra mile, you just start walking in the little town of Hamnoy, which is actually an accommodation, but let's not say that. And you can just, you know, take maybe some streetscapes of the little roar view, or the reviewer, so the classic red huts. I think, you know, you can play around with those too. So you have a few different options here, not just the classic view. when it comes to compositions in Reine, you obviously have the most famous one, which is right at my back. Today you can't see much, but for this one, which is taken from the bridge that connects to the town center, well, you have the possibility of shooting with a wide angle and capture the whole fjord with the little red huts. You can go horizontal, you can go vertical, and of course you can also zoom in. So you can stay very wide, as I said, but you can also zoom in and focus on the little, the little pieces of town with the mountains in the back, which, again, you have some latitude here when it comes to composing the picture. Now, this is not the only one. Earlier, so before the bridge, before you take the bridge that leads you downtown, if you stop, well, there are a few parking areas, so make sure not to park along the road, but to stop in one of the dedicated parking areas. You have this little wooden bridge with a pointy peak in the background, which is very, very, very nice. And instead, if you keep driving after the bridge, you eventually reach like the gas station area, and you can park there and you can start roam around and try to find composition in the little harbor that there is downtown, and reflections, and depends on a lot on the conditions that you are going to get when you're traveling here, but just know that you will find something there too. Okay. The Flakstad Fjord, probably my favorite location of the Lofoten Islands. The area that you're seeing right now at my back is just one of the possible compositions that you can get around this fjord. And why? Because the road literally drives all around it. Okay, so you can stop an endless number of times to capture entirely different compositions. Okay, so this is just one of them, and probably one of my favorites too. Now, this place specifically is very, very condition dependent because it varies hugely with the tide. Right now it's low tide, so you have these beautiful textures in the sand that you can use to lead the eye into the background where you have those stunning mountains. But with the high tide, you might play more with the reflections or maybe with the ice that you can get ashore. Now, driving through, you will end up on the other side where you will also get some beautiful mountains, completely different from the ones that you're seeing right now. That just gives you the idea of how many compositions and how much time you can spend in an area as small as this one. Now, this place, despite being very close to the coastline of Vareid, which is another one of the locations in this video, when it comes to the time of the day, I would recommend strictly sunrise and not really sunset. At sunrise, you get this beautiful light. Right now we are, well, deep into the morning time, so you get more light on these peaks, but you get the idea of the light that you're going to get at sunrise, as the light will come from your left. At sunset, you will get the sun setting behind the mountains, but unless you really have some strong cloud conditions, I would not recommend it, as the sun really gets behind the peaks fairly soon in the afternoon. So not really a sunset spot, more of a sunrise shot. Let's talk about Vikten. Vikten is a tiny village that is just a short detour from the main road, the E10. And when you will turn the corner when you will start seeing the village and you'll turn the corner, you will get presented with this majestic mountain and the shoreline in front of you. It is truly a spectacular view, photography side. Now, when it comes to photography though, my favorite pictures to take in this area are definitely the ones with the wave movement, okay? Here, since you are on the open sea, the waves are fairly rough, so you can definitely play a lot with, long exposure, reasonably long, not too long. You don't want the water to look too silky. You want to stay reasonably fast to retain some detail in the wave movement. Depending on the tide level, you will get like beautiful textures in these rocks that you see, and if you get lucky with the tide, you will also get some reflections in the little puddles that will get created. So plenty of compositions to take here. It is also a great location for northern lights because it faces north, so I highly recommend you to visit this spot. Another location that I wanted to put in this list, despite it being a very, very condition dependent, is the Ramberg bridges. The most iconic shot of this place is actually a drone shot taken of the bridges themselves with the, you know, they're a great leading line into the background, into the mountains in the background. But for me, the shots that I'm actually liking the most of these locations are taken with a camera, not with a drone, and are of these little bays that you can find off the bridges, where you can use a wide angle to capture all the peaks in the background and use some beautiful, you know, if you're lucky during the winter season, you might get some ice in the foreground, which makes it, you know, a great subject to include in your frame. And don't limit yourself just with the wide angle. There are mountains pretty much 360 all around in this area, so put on a telephoto lens too and try to find some interesting subjects all around the landscape, because trust me, there are plenty. Best time of the day to be here is, for me, sunset. Right now we are, well, headed into sunset, and as you can see, you get this side light coming in from the right, so you get a little bit of light all across the mountains. Sunrise can work too. You pretty much have a backlit condition, so if you have some interesting cloud and you get some colors in the sky, that might work too. But if I have to come here once, it would be sunset. Haukland, probably one of the most popular beaches of the Lofoten Islands. This is a place that I have a love-hate relationship with, because while there's many perspectives possible, at the same time, I don't know, I've always struggled in a way to find a really compelling composition. I've tried so many, and I don't know, for whatever reason I've always struggled, but it's a place that I truly love. One of the reasons why I love this place is because it's a great location for the northern lights. So, you know, it faces north. If you're aiming at the mountain, you're facing north, and that of course allows you to see the northern lights and capture them with the landscape if they're appearing in the sky, obviously. And also because it's great at sunset, you get the light on the mountain. So again, you can play around with all the possible foregrounds, while having a beautiful golden light on the mountain in the back. So great place for northern lights and sunset. When it comes to the compositions themselves, as I said, there are many available here. Of course, you can get close to the water and play with the waves. Okay, so that's an option. That's always an option. You have a couple streams that are, you know, flowing into the sea, and you can use them as leading lines. Right now they're frozen, but anyway, you can still use them. And then you have the rocks that you can use again. You can find some puddles maybe in between the boulders, and you can, you know, get the reflection of the big mountain over here. So there are several different foregrounds that you can use, and that's another reason why I love this place so much. Uttakleiv, the sister of Haukland. The two beaches are very close between each other. There's only one tunnel that separates them. And the setting, to be honest, is fairly similar to what we are already seeing with Haukland, meaning you have this beautiful rugged mountain in the background and a multitude of possible foregrounds. Now, the reason why this beach is famous amongst photographers is specifically because a rock formation called the Eye of Uttakleiv, very pretty, definitely a little bit overdone as a composition, that you can find not far from the parking lot. You just head down to the coastline and you will definitely see some people already shooting it, and if not, you will not have a super hard time, you know, finding it. Just scout for a few minutes and you will see it. Now, if you don't want to shoot the Eye of Uttakleiv, understandably, you have several other options, okay, available. First, the rounded rocks that you will see down there at my back. They are incredibly pretty, incredibly photogenic. You can use the wave movement, you know, amongst them to actually lead the eye into the background. You can just shoot them even without water. You can, you know, instead of using these rounded rocks, you can just shoot with the waves. So, you stand more at an angle on the shoreline and just focusing on the mountain in the back and using the waves rolling in. That's also very pretty. You can use, some snowy foregrounds. There are some puddles there. So you have another multitude of foregrounds apart from the eye. Beautiful place. As an added extra, Another great location for northern lights because it's facing north and the mountain is not so big, so you actually have some space to include a lot of sky in your pictures and well, get the northern lights if they appear in sky. One of the places that I would never miss in the Lofoten Islands is this one, the coastline around Vareid. Sorry for my pronunciation, but this place is an absolute treasure in terms of compositions. You can play so much here with different foregrounds. You have the rocks, so you can play with the leading lines in the rocks. You can play with the several paddles that you can find all along the coast. And if you're lucky enough to get some wave movement, you can play with the waves too. When it comes to the time of the day to be here, I would probably recommend sunrise, as you get the sun rising from your left, which means that you're going to get some beautiful light entering from that part of the frame into the mountains in the background, which is an absolute show. Sunset though can also really work if you get the right conditions, because you'll get the sun basically straight in your face during the winter season, which means it's going to be a bit backlit, but if you get some dramatic clouds, it's going to be an absolute spectacle. So sunrise and sunset can work, but let's say rule of thumb, I would probably be here for sunrise. A list about the best places in the Lofoten Islands to capture pictures couldn't be complete without Skagsanden, probably the most famous beach of the Lofoten. This location is not great just for the landscapes. Of course, it is beautiful, but for two main reasons. The first one being that you're shooting north, okay, so you're facing north, shooting in this direction, which is great for northern lights. So this is one of my go-to places when, you know, the conditions are good enough and I want to wait for the northern lights to show up. It's very easy. You have the parking at our back right now, and within 1 minute you're on the beach and you can shoot towards north with a great subject. So you have the mountains. It's a great location for northern lights hunting. The second reason is because of the textures. You have so many textures to play with in your foreground, okay? You have a couple little streams that goes into the sea, and you can play so much with, you know, these foregrounds, and again, it makes it just a great place to have fun shooting for close-ups if you like, you know, more intimate landscapes, as well as the grand landscape to, you know, use in your foreground with the wide angle. I already anticipated the best time of the day, in my opinion, to be here, which would be nighttime. Again, this is one of my go-to places for northern lights photography. It's just perfect when it comes to that. But if I had to come here during the day, it would be sunset. You get the sun setting at our back, so facing this direction, you would get the last light of the day on the mountain that you have in your frame. So some beautiful light over there. Sunrise can also work too. You would get more of a side light coming in from the right, but for me, sunset it is. All right, people, we made it to the end. This video was one that I thought about doing it for many years now, because every year I was traveling here, looking at these places, and I was really thinking, well, maybe I should do something to, you know, let more people know about this beautiful area. And well, finally this year I got the chance. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and as usual, if you like my content, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. And well, as always, till next time.